What's happening, everybody? I know it's been a while. So, I hope everybody had a great weekend, was safe, and remembered why it was that you had this weekend to begin with. So, first and foremost, a huge shout out to all military personnel and their families. I know that this video will come out the day after Memorial Day, but I still think it's important to celebrate those that are in the military, that have been in the military, or that have given their all for us to continue to have the freedoms that we have. So, as you may be able to tell, this video is not going to be kind to the motorsports industry as a whole. Something that I've been thinking about, I guess you could say for a while, but it has been on my mind a little bit more lately, is the greatest enemy to motorsports, the motorsports industry. Whether you are into drag racing, diesel trucks, mini trucking, lowriders, hot rods, imports, drifting, whatever it may be, the worst enemy of motorsports. A lot of you would probably assume that I would say old people or the government because, well, let's face it, there are a lot of people in the boomer generation that are not huge fans of anything that the motorsports industry stands for. Listen, there are even some in my own generation in Gen X that are not too fond, and that kind of trickles down throughout the generations. But honestly, they're not the worst enemy of our industry. You want to know what is? You and me, and we are legitimately our own worst enemies in this industry. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, what in the hell is this guy talking about? So, let's kind of rewind. Let's go all the way back to the 50s and 60s when the boomer generation and even the generation before them came up with the automobile and road racing and course racing and all of these other things before we eventually moved into hot rodding, at least in the United States. Moved into hot rodding. Obviously, you have street racing. All of this. There's always been a pushback of some sort, and that's a lot of that is honestly caused by our own stupidity. What do I mean by our own stupidity? Oh, I mean, this could take so many different directions. I see this every day, and honestly, in the last decade and a half, it has become worse and worse. Because you have content creators in the industry that don't have a vested interest in the industry. All they have is a vested interest in themselves to create content and create the most controversial content imaginable for likes, engagement, and monetary purposes. I don't fault those people. Everybody's got to make a living. If you're making a living doing that, I can't fault you for it, but what I can fault you for is the unwanted attention that it brings the motorsports industry. Something that's been on my mind a lot lately has been diesel stuff. Everyone's like, why does the EPA keep cracking down on diesel performance and diesel this and diesel that and whatever it may be? You want to know why? Because there's a lot of idiots out there that continuously go on social media rolling coal and making a fool of themselves and bringing unwanted attention and unnecessary attention to the diesel industry. You add to that the amount of content creators that I see on social media, particularly YouTube, Facebook, not necessarily TikTok, but YouTube and Facebook, that will gladly show you how to delete all of your diesel emissions issues, or whatever it may be, and then get 100,000 people to watch this stuff on YouTube and wonder why it is that the federal government in the United States tends to hate the diesel industry. Well, when you bring unwanted attention, it's the same with street racing, and honestly, I'm going to get some hate for this. Car audio guys. I've been in the car audio scene for the better part of 30 years on and off. Since I was a teenager, had my first, real car audio stuff in 1995-ish. Somewhere around there. 95, definitely 96, but I think 95. So you're talking 29 years ago. And even right now, I just competed in a car audio competition a month and a half ago. But I'm also 47 years old. I'm not telling people that they shouldn't enjoy what they have or what they do. What I'm saying is, when you're beating down the neighborhood at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday night or Saturday night or whatever damn night of the week it is, you're bringing unwanted attention. I know that you love your car. I know that you love your stereo system. I know that you love your diesel and rolling coal. I know that you love your street rod and, how loud it is and how it makes you feel. I get it. Been there, done that. I have run the gamut between muscle cars, mini trucks, low riders, car audio stuff. I've been involved in all of it. There is a time and a place. And 1 a.m. driving through your neighborhood, or anybody else's residential neighborhood for that matter, when you've got a stereo that's going to shake other people's windows, or you've got an exhaust that's going to shake other people's windows at 1 o'clock in the morning, all you're doing is a disservice to yourself. If it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, who cares? Sorry, third shifters, but that's just a way of life. It is what it is. I'm not going to turn down my stuff at 11 a.m. or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just not going to happen. But when I come home, if it's 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, sun is down, I know that most of the neighborhood is asleep, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn down my stereo so that I'm not bothering those other people. I'm not going to go out into my garage and fire up an air compressor or fire up power tools at 3 o'clock in the morning, because that brings unwanted attention. So for everybody who wants to sit out there and complain, oh my God, the government hates us and old people hate us and there's all this gatekeeping, and a lot of it's because you bring bad publicity upon yourselves. You bring unwanted attention. When I see a video of some guy in a jacked up, no offense Dodge owners, like a jacked up Dodge with a 6-inch exhaust tip, and he pulls up to an intersection and just trying to roll coal right into the Prius or whatever it is next to them, and then that video ends up on social media. Do I laugh about it? Of course I laugh about it, because, especially if it's a Prius owner, of course I'm going to laugh about it. But here's the thing. That's not the attention that you want. And what men and women fail to realize nowadays is a lot of social media is used against you when it comes to legal aspects also. Filming illegal street racing, or, a lot of that stuff can get you in a lot of trouble. And again, I get it. It's you want to create the content, you want to get it out there to people. But there's consequences with this stuff also. And listen, I'm just as at fault. I'm not going to say that I haven't done dumb shit. I used to be that guy who would bump his stereo in the neighborhood at 1 o'clock in the morning, or drive my Mustang that had, welded bullet mufflers and turn downs on it that was stupidly loud through my neighborhood at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it rattled everything on every neighbor's window. I street raced before. I've been there, done all this stuff. I'm not getting old. I would still, I just, started planning out a new project as far as my old Mustang goes. So I get it. And like I said, I'm still within the car audio scene. I spend almost every weekend at the drag strip photographing drag racing or car shows, whatever it may be. I help out at my local drag strip as much as I can when I'm home. So I don't want everybody to jump into the comments and go, oh, this guy's just old, he doesn't get it. You're right, I might be older. I'm not old. I'm older. But here's the thing. I have learned because I have lived through it. I know what it's like for the police to show up in your driveway and go, neighbors complained about the stereo. Neighbors complained about the exhaust. I've been there. I've done that. But here's the deal. If we continue to do it, no matter if you're 18 or 88, it doesn't really matter. If we continue to do it, don't be surprised when there are consequences to it. Now, these intersection takeovers, that's a little bit different because those people are complete idiots and nobody in the motorsports industry will claim them. We don't want anything to do with that. We don't want anything to do with these illegal intersection takeovers and all that shit that just turns into stupidity. But there's, like if you go to a big car show, mini truck nats, scraping the coast, a lot of the hot rod stuff. You go to any of these, and guess what? You're going to see police cruising around. You want to know why? Because there's dumbasses who pull out of a hot rod show in their late model Mustang that they have no business owning or driving because they don't know how to drive it. More money than brains, essentially, or their parents have more money than brains. And the ongoing joke is, oh, a Mustang is leaving the car show. I wonder how many people it's going to hit. Really? I mean, is that what we want for our industry? And I will tell you, I have had branding partners in the past that'll be like, we can't have our name on certain things because they understand the repercussions of those things. Whether, especially coal rolling diesel stuff. Listen, the government is really, really, I don't even want to use the word concerned because let's face it, they don't really give a shit about you and I. They give a shit about money and power. And the more money that they can get out of you, the more power they feel like they have. That is their objective. They don't truly care about what they're doing. They're just on an ego trip and they want money and power. And I'm sure there's some outliers at the EPA that actually care about the environment, but let's face it, it's a money-making machine just like almost every other three-letter entity of the U.S. government. It's about money. If they cared that much, they would take all the money that they fine people for rolling coal or taking your catalytic converters off of your car, or whatever else it is. When we don't even get me started on, us compared to other countries and the pollution, like we're going to save the planet just by not having a hole in the ozone right over the United States. That's not quite how that works. But here's the thing. The more of that stuff that we do, the worse it gets. They're going to collect their money, and I go back to, if they really cared about what they were doing, that money would be used to plant hundreds of thousands of trees and not turn every vegetation area into a parking lot for a strip mall or, multi-complex apartments, whatever it is. I don't truly believe that they care about the environment. I think they sometimes care about clean water, and that also depends on what state you live in and which way you vote. But guys, they care about money. And it's just like, speeding tickets for the most part. Really, if I'm doing 83 miles an hour in a 70, Am I really a hazard to others, or are you just looking for a reason to try to get some money out of me? There are no quotas. Right. Anyways. Believe whatever you want regarding that. Again, money. Money, money, money. Makes the world go round, right? So, what you're also doing is, you know how they say one person can screw it up for everybody else? In essence, that's what you're doing when you continuously go out there and make content and share content, or you are the one that is in the content, making the industry as a whole look stupid, or giving a bad name. Listen, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your life, what to do with your hobby. All I'm saying is there's a reason that certain groups fly under the radar and others don't. If you notice, which I have noticed over the last couple of years, mini truck shows, lowrider shows have far less issues with the community, with law enforcement, than the diesel community, the squatted trucks. The squatted trucks are just, let's get this straight. I don't have a problem with your dog butt dragon looking truck. But it's not the truck that I have the issue with. It's the people and the attitude within that community. It is from everything that I've seen when I've been at scraping, OBI, all around the country, what I have seen is the attitude of the people that own squatted trucks is a very entitled, we're going to do what we want to do, and we don't care what you think. And guess what? You have brought so much unwanted attention to yourselves. If you're not in the squatted truck community, most of us think that it looks ridiculous and that it truly is a safety issue, because I see you guys damn near need like high chairs to be able to see over the steering wheel in that thing, and you still can't see the ground. You're still looking at the edge of the hood. You can't actually see what's under you. Multiple issues at Rod Run this year. I know some shows have started actually banning squatted trucks. And again, you guys have brought that upon yourselves. Muddin'. I just watched this. Well, I tried to. It was so hard to watch. There was this on Amazon, Red, White, and Boozed, or I don't know. It was about the old mud hole, the mud pit stuff in the Orlando area. And how all of that has pretty much closed up because of development or stupidity. And yes, things have changed over the last 35 years. It doesn't mean that we can't have fun. It means that you need to learn to be respectful. Not everybody is out to get you. You know, if you go to a cruise-in or a pop-up meet, and we had to enforce this even in the early 2000s, because when we would go out and cruise, where I lived, when we would go out and cruise the strip, if you came into the parking lot that we were hanging out in, there was an expectation you weren't going to do burnouts, you weren't going to act a fool, and you weren't going to leave trash. We didn't care if you hung out there, because we weren't like, oh, you can't park here. You can hang out here as long as you act right. The moment you start acting stupid, you're gone. Like, we're not going to put up with it. And so the squatted truck community has got this reputation of entitled brats. I mean, some of them seem cool, but a lot of the ones that I've seen seem very, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. I don't care about any repercussions, yada, yada, yada. That's a problem. It's a problem for the community as a whole, and that's why you see promoters not allowing those types of vehicles back. It's not because of the vehicle, because there are some squatted trucks that have a ton of money put into them. The problem is the people within that community acting a fool and then being surprised and all pissy and acting like a Karen when they get called out on it. The hot rod guys, for the most part, keep a pretty, I don't want to say low profile, but have been around long enough to gain the respect and understand how to deal with law enforcement, communities, promoters, and things like that, that there's a little bit more leeway there because they're not trying. When you go on social media, let me explain this. When you go on social media and you or your buddy are making these posts, these videos, acting a fool, being stupid, it is showing complete disregard for the motorsports community, for law enforcement, for everything. And what happens when you disrespect somebody? In my time, you got smacked. Now, what happens is you bring unwanted attention. And guess what? When you bring unwanted attention into our industry, there's going to be pushback, and that pushback is going to be like, we don't want you around because you're bringing the wrong attention. So don't get surprised when even some of the younger guys that I know and that I talk to, they're like, these people are acting stupid. We don't want to be around them. So this is not an age thing. Don't for a second try to, blame me for being older and saying, well, he's just old, he doesn't get it. The fact is, you guys keep screwing up and people are they're going to distance themselves, and they're going to distance themselves from what you stand for, what you do, even if you have good intentions. If you have good intentions, don't act a fool. Content creators have got to be more aware of the content that they're posting also and going, I probably shouldn't be doing this because it's going to bring unwanted attention. I get it. There's a lot of you out there that make your living. Listen, I'm a professional photographer and journalist. This is how I make my living. I don't have a 9-to-5 job. So I understand content creation. I've been doing it full time for almost 10 years. But here's the thing. When you put that stuff out and 100,000 people view it, now don't get me wrong, I've never had shit reach 100,000 people. So, and this damn sure won't either, because nobody ever wants to take responsibility for their dumbass actions. The fact is, though, that it can be harmful to the community depending on what it is. If you are posting videos about how to skirt the EPA for emissions purposes, you're probably going to get 100,000 people to watch it. And guess what? Out of that 100,000 people, I'm willing to bet that there's probably somebody from the federal government that watches it too. The EPA or whatever it may be. It's the same as the firearms community, and when they make videos about firearms, I can bet you bottom dollar somebody from the ATF is paying attention to bigger channels. It is the detrimental side of social media. There are a lot of great things about all of the platforms that you and I share together, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, X, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be. There are great opportunities, and there are lots and lots of great content creators. There are also content creators that have no business making content, and unless you're truly involved and understand repercussions and understand how to proceed without all the backlash, or at least all the attention, you're really doing a lot of us a disservice. I hate to say it. I'm not trying to hate on anybody. Now, given, I don't care if you get mad at me either. Just understand, that really doesn't bother me at all. You won't be the first, you won't be the last. But also understand, there's going to be consequences for the content that you put up. So, instead of blaming everybody else, let's look at the content that we're creating. and be more judicious about, how we go about things. I'm not saying, just post boring shit because, well, you're not going to get paid for that. Let's face it. People like to see drama, and they like to, obviously, even I watch some of it. Somebody like that Amazon thing I had to turn off about halfway through. It was so bad. There was so much. I actually started to get pissed off about it. Like the dad this was a documentary thing, but the dad, yeah, pretty cool. But the way that a lot of things were portrayed was very backwoods, redneck, racist, not putting the industry in the best light. And listen, I love the motorsports industry. And when I say the motorsports industry, I don't care if we're talking about drag racing, if we're talking about mudding, if we're talking about lifted trucks, lowered trucks, low riders, hot rods, imports, drifting, whatever it may be, or, rally cars and so many different forms of motorsports. So when I use the word motorsports, it's kind of a broad term. And I know that not everybody just wants to follow the lead. You don't have to follow the lead. You just have to set a good example. And set an example on what people should attract them. Because once you start posting if all you're posting is the rowdy shit, like the stuff that people look at and go, yeah, we need to keep our kids away from that because that's too much. You need to balance it. You need to show people why they should be more involved. And more involved for the right reasons. The right reasons are, the building of camaraderie, the engineering of these amazing automobiles, and everything that goes along with that, the friendships that you build, the families that you build out of this. And just looking at these awesome cars and trucks and bikes. I mean, that's a huge thing too. But if all we're posting is, bullshit that makes us look bad, are you just doing that for your own self just to make money? And if you are, I mean, I don't know why anybody in the motorsports industry would be supporting that, because it doesn't shine anything in a good light. Like, I'll take, for example, Cletus is one of the, if not the biggest content personality and creator, especially within motorsports, especially on YouTube and, other platforms. And Cletus does some dumb shit. But Cletus does some really great stuff and is very smart about the way that he does stuff, the attention that he brings, the way that he presents it. He shows the success side of it while still being entertaining and fun, things like that. I can watch a Cletus video, but then there are these other guys, and I'm not going to, specifically mention names, but there are these other ones that will go out and they'll go out and buy a truck or something just with the intentions of destroying it for a video. I get it. You have the money to be able to do that. That's fine. But wouldn't that, and I'm not telling you how to spend your money, obviously. But wouldn't it be great to, buy those types of trucks and give them to, 16 and 17-year-old kids to work on? And build our community instead of just going out and destroying shit for views? Maybe that's where I'm getting a little old, but trust me, I was around long before you guys, a lot of you. And, we wouldn't imagine destroying shit just to get somebody to, ooh, yeah, that's cool. So, Keep that in mind, though. Seriously, when we're doing this, when we're creating content, when we're writing articles, when we're reporting on stuff within the industry, we need to be a little bit more responsible and don't be so surprised when there's pushback, and it's negative pushback, whether it's from the government or even people in your own neighborhood. Guess what? The people in your own neighborhood, typically, depending on what kind of neighborhood you live in, they're the ones voting for these people that continue to allow these three-letter entities of our government to drastically overreach in what they do with, the automobile industry, the motorsports industry, whatever it may be. So let's not forget, even if you aren't pissing off somebody from the government, you're probably going to end up pissing off somebody who votes those people into government to begin with. So it's just a cautionary tale of, don't be surprised when they're knocking on your door going, we saw your video, we need to have a chat. Because that's what unwanted attention does. And there is a happy medium, you just have to find it. And you have to educate your audience. And if your audience isn't interested in being educated and being a little bit smarter about these things, you got a special kind of audience, is what I will tell you. I can harp all day about... It's just really been bothering me lately because I've seen a lot of... it's not nearly as bad in the diesel community as it used to be as far as, like, the rolling coal videos. I don't see them nearly as much anymore. But that may be a repercussion from having seen them so much that there's been a big crackdown in the diesel industry. There's been a crackdown now on squatted trucks. There needs to be a crackdown on these intersection takeover bullshit. And mainstream media needs to understand that this has got nothing to do with the motorsports community. It's got nothing. This isn't drag racing. This is illegal activity. That's what that is. This is not sanctioned street racing. This is not organized street racing. This is not drag racing. It's sheer stupidity is what it is. So, for you misinformed and unintellectually advanced members of the mainstream media who may watch this, maybe you should reach out and actually find out what you're talking about before you run your mouth on the news and try to make an entire motorsports industry look bad because of some idiots that decide to take over an intersection and have a block party in the middle of Main Street and 4th Street or some shit like that. Educate yourself. That's really, I don't know that there's much more to say on that, but again, don't sit here and blame everybody else for the problems within our industry if we're bringing them upon ourselves. If we are bringing these problems upon ourselves because of the attention that we bring, then who do we really have to blame? We have to look inside and start blaming ourselves. It's my responsibility, your responsibility, and everybody else's responsibility in motorsports to present a front that makes us look kind of responsible. Anybody in motorsports knows that none of us are really responsible. If we were, we wouldn't be in motorsports to begin with. We are a dysfunctional family of people. Always have been, always will be, and I absolutely love that. That dates, way, 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 way back. Decades before I was ever born. There was still dysfunction, whether it was, the hot rodders or the motorcycle guys, whatever it was. There's always been dysfunction. But if you've also noticed, and take lead from, you don't hear about one percenter clubs nearly as much in the news anymore as you did even 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, you'll see specials on TV, yada, 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 about that lifestyle and those guys. But they have started to become low-key because I think some of it's got to do with, if you don't bring that attention upon yourself, it's easier to enjoy life by flying under the radar sometimes. And I'm not saying go out and do dumb shit and be illegal and just hide it. I'm just saying be more responsible about the kind of attention you're bringing upon yourself and the other people around you and the motorsports industry as a whole. Because it is just better for all of us if the unwanted attention goes somewhere else that's not part of the motorsports industry. Like, give them something else to focus on besides us, because we don't want it, we don't need it. If you've got questions, or, if you want to blast off on me, which I'm sure some of you will, and that's your prerogative, you're all entitled to an opinion, as am I. Hence why we were celebrating on Monday, because we have the freedoms to be able to express opinions like this. But yeah, if you've got an opinion, feel free to share it. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Trust me, you are not going to hurt my feelings. And if you have suggestions on how to make things better and things like that, take those steps to make our industry one that doesn't always have to be looking over its shoulder because of, stupid decisions being made and unwanted attention. Because you may not mind the unwanted attention. There's a lot of us who don't want it. And the more you bring, the more we're all exposed to it. So, just saying. If you like this kind of commentary, I am going to have some guests on soon. I will be doing some interview stuff regarding drag racing and motorsports in general. Obviously, being around as long as I have, I know a lot of people within the industry, and we're going to start doing some interviews soon. I do have to go on the road for the next 6 weeks, back to back on the weekends for events. But I'm going to try to continue to make content while I'm at home to bring to you guys. If you like it, I'd love if you guys wanted to subscribe or hit the like button, whatever it is that we do here on whatever format that you're on, whether you're listening to the audio version of this or if you're on YouTube or any other social media platform. I would appreciate it. If you just want me to go stick it, feel free to comment that. Again, you're not going to hurt my opinion. You're not going to hurt my feelings. And you're probably not going to change my opinion. You may, if you bring up valid points. I'm definitely willing to read it and determine whether that will at all change my opinion. I'm always open to thoughtful conversation and debate in regards to things. So, if you've got it, bring it. But again, if you like this stuff, great. If you don't, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I get it. I appreciate you sticking around this long. So, we will talk on the other side. Take care, everybody.